Hey, what's happening everyone? Journeyman here and welcome to another Football Manager 2018 update. I woke up this morning, got an email from Football Manager say they've released a Dynamics trailer. So let's take a look at this. It's going to be a reaction video if you couldn't already tell. I haven't seen this video at all. This is my first reaction to this new piece of juicy information.
Welcome to FMTV. My name is Joe Tomlinson. Today we're talking about Dynamics. Dynamics is a new module for Football Manager that correlates your management of the dressing room with your team's performance on the pitch. In short, a harmonious dressing room will play more fluently, while a more fractured team will be less fluid come match day.
That's a fair point.
When you start your career in Football Manager 2018, you're presented with an introductory email explaining the current squad dynamic situation at your club, along with a brief overview of the different elements that make up the Dynamics module. These are then supplemented by monthly Dynamics updates as you progress through your career. You'll also notice that there is a new dedicated Dynamics section integrated into the sidebar. Click on this at any point to view an in-depth breakdown of the dynamics within your squad.
Okay, so that's the first look at the overview of all dynamics of your team. So let's got three categories at the top: cohesion, dressing room, and managerial support. Bottom left, you got top influences, social groups, and issues. Okay, so on first impression, gonna guess this. Match cohesion. That's gonna be about fluidity. As far as like tactics goes, I wonder if it'll impact vision. Maybe it'll impact vision of the squad as well, because obviously getting to know player movement and things like that, and obviously vision is a huge part of that. Just so you might say, that's going to be your morale, like a glorified version of morale, and managerial support. That's kind of a new box for me, because we have managerial support up and down in the current FMVlog, but it's kind of a hidden stat, hidden attribute, hidden information screen. So it's good to see it finally out there in the open, so we can kind of understand a little bit about, you know, why the players might not like me, why the players get on with me, why players react to me positively, and why some don't. Bottom left, top influences, so the hierarchy system, the pyramid system, we've all seen that. Social groups, we've seen that a little bit as well. I'm sure they'll go into it in more detail. And then issues, that's going to be, so just overview of players that are concerned about something that's happening at the squad.
Issues that may currently affect your playing staff. At the top of the overview screen, you can see the three main areas you need to keep on top of: match cohesion, dressing room atmosphere, and managerial support. Let's start with match cohesion. Match cohesion relates to the understanding between the players on the pitch. A good level of understanding can mean that your squad benefits from an improvement in their collective mental attributes rating. For example, your midfielders may see an improvement in their vision attribute.
There you go, vision. Knew it. Knew that was happening.
As a result. Working on team cohesion in training and also improving individual players' mental attributes helps to develop that understanding. The dressing room atmosphere reflects...
So it's kind of like the morale version of team fluidity. When the tactics screen, you know how the tactics screen FM17, there was fluidity box that went up and down based on how long you used the tactic, how cohesive they were in the tactic itself. That's kind of a morale version of that.
The mood in the camp, with the larger and more influential social groups having the greatest effect. This atmosphere can affect players' morale to different degrees depending which social group they are in. It's also important to bear in mind whilst making new signings, as the right player and the right atmosphere will make integrating them into the squad a whole lot easier. Factors such as your influence over the squad, team talks, promises, the length of time you spent at the club, and results on the pitch determine the amount of managerial support you receive from your players.
Okay. First concern, player interaction levels were far too sensitive last year. They were far too up and down based on the decision that you made. You basically had 6 boxes to click from, you click a box, and then they would either react positively or they would react negatively. And last season, I found that there were more boxes that made the player react negatively than there were positively. And obviously, if this is a huge dynamic, pun intended, thing this year, it's going to be... It could be a game breaker if it's really too sensitive, because you could just piss off a squad at the flip of a coin and then you're done. because you piss off a squad, it's so hard to get the team back into it, and obviously that affects results on the pitch, and then the board get mad at you. It's a kind of a snowball effect. One thing goes wrong, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing. So that's my concern so far with that managerial support box. The player sensitivity level has to be reduced slightly this year, or they have to give us more options regarding the player, and obviously more neutrality in there, and more good and more green, less like more green positive results and less red negative, and then the happy neutral area for us to really enjoy this feature, because otherwise we're going to be scared to interact with any of the players if we feel like there's a negative connotation to what we say and how we do it.
This can have an effect on how likely groups of players are to side against you, but more on that shortly. Let's move on and take a look at the hierarchy screen. This shows a pyramid view of the players ranked by their influence in the dressing room. At the top, you have your team leaders, usually players who have been at the club for a number of years or who have good leadership skills, the kind of players who might make the best captains. It's most important to keep team leaders happy, as they can turn the dressing room in your favour if one of the squad speaks out against you.
Okay, so basically you have to suck their dicks to get the rest of the players on board. Of course, I just kid, but again, that's a really nice screen. We'll go back a little bit and take another look if we can find it. There it is. Okay, so I love that way the layout is. Obviously, you're at the top there. You're the most influential person in the entire club, followed by team leaders, highly influential, and other players. So that's really nice little breakdown of how the team hierarchy system is. Very well, very clean, very good looking. I wonder if you have too many team leaders in there, you might get too many voices in the dressing room. Does that make sense? If you have too many leaders, you might have an issue. They might have like a cohesion issue. But I wonder if with the opposite, if you have a lot of leaders, maybe it's a good thing. I don't know yet. I guess we'll find out maybe in this video, and if not, we'll definitely find out in the game.
It's important to keep team leaders happy, as they can turn the dressing room in your favour if one of the squad speaks out against you. However, if you upset a team leader, it could turn the rest of the players against you. Next, you have highly influential players who might have one or two of the skills needed to be...
And we saw this already.
Finally,
okay.
There are the other players who will be influenced by those above them. On the right-hand side of the screen, you can see feedback from your assistant manager about the current positives and negatives within the team's hierarchy, allowing you to adjust your scouting plans accordingly. You can click on any of the players inside the pyramid and see their squad status, personality, happiness, as well as a breakdown of why they're in the position they're in within that hierarchy.
Ooh, that's a new box. One second. We'll go back. All right, the bottom right. Ambassadorial duties. That's a new one. First impressions. That's going to do something along with influence a player to stay at the club. Like speak to them, like new contracts about to come up, contract about to expire, sorry, and you want them to influence, I don't know, let's say Caballassi at the bottom. Let's say his contract's about to expire, he's not sure if he wants to stay. You can get Troy Deeney to talk to him over a long period of time to convince him that to stay. Basically, that's an idea that might exist. Also, you might be able to use him in contract negotiations with players coming into the squad. So that might be as well what's happening right here.
With team leaders in particular, you can ask them for advice on improving the dressing room atmosphere, as well as asking them to let you know of any issues within the squad.
Okay, good.
You'll notice as well that you
kind of like mini assistant managers.
Each player fits into. So let's take a look at the social group screen to explore this in a bit more detail. Social groups greatly expand on the relationship systems from previous football managers.
Alright, so yeah, we saw this a little bit in the feature release video. Again, I want to say this again. I love the way this is organized, the core, secondary, social B, and others. I do like the way this is organized. It's good to see that you can now finally see which players interact well with each other, who gets on, who doesn't get on, things like that. So really good information. I feel this is very, very important to help you build a side over a long period of time. You don't want too many players in the other. If you sign a lot of new players, you're going to see a lot of players in the other. If you want a bit more consistent with your team, you'll see a lot more in the core and secondary social group. So that's a really good layout to describe what's happening within the squad itself, as far as sign-ins, new players, things like that.
More important for you to consider when dealing with your squad. The core social group is the largest and most influential in the dressing room. There are lots of factors taken into account to decide which groups players end up in, and that could include players who have been at the club for a relatively long period of time, who have similar levels of professionalism, speak similar languages, players who are similar ages, and more besides. You may have one or two second...
What's actually good aside of thought, what's good about this too, you can actually highlight individuals that are toxic to the club. Thrown out there, think about players like Mario Balotelli. Obviously, he's probably going to be spending most of his life in the other category of it. I mean, not saying the guy's a bad guy at all, but that's an example of a player that has a major impact behind the scenes as not necessarily a positive one. So you'll be able to highlight which your player is like a Mario Balotelli and which your player is like a I don't know, a Jamie Carragher or Gary Neville, which normally help gel the team together. So you're able to highlight kind of which player is which in that sense. So you'll be able to make a decision who you sell, who you sign, things like that to match up with those personalities. So that's a really good trait.
Social groups too. Players who don't fit into a social group are in the others category. These might be players who have joined recently and are establishing themselves in the squad or just don't gel with their teammates. If they meet the criteria, they may join the group after a short period of time, but players can also drift out of social groups as the squad's makeup evolves. Social groups alter the way you deal with players' requests, as upsetting one member of a social group can turn the rest of that group against you.
As we're saying,
especially if they're very influential. It's worth checking the social group a player is in, as well as your overall managerial support rating, before deciding what response to take to a player coming to you for more first-team football or a new contract.
Okay, so with that in mind, again, we talked about it briefly previously, but I hope the sensitivity level of the players has been decreased and more options are available in interacting with them. Just because, again, it's like a domino effect. If you piss off the leader, or let's say Gomez, right, is a 36-year-old experienced goalkeeper, listed right here, 36 experienced goalkeeper. So you want to move him on. You don't want to play him anymore on the first team. You want to go for a younger, better player, right? But he's a team leader. So if you decide that, hey, I'm going to move on from you, he has then a topple effect to the hierarchy system below him, to the highly influential, the influential, and the other players. So you piss him off, then all of a sudden, everyone else below that becomes annoyed. I've got a problem with that, just because I feel like this could be a little bit of a game breaker. Just because a player is a team leader in the locker room doesn't mean they can't be replaced eventually. And I feel like, and I'm hoping manager took this into consideration when they designed this. Otherwise, they could have a situation on the hands here where you're kind of having to stick with certain players just because they are team leaders and not because they're a good player or they're best for your team or things like that. So I'm hoping Foot Manager considered that, and they've worked out a way around that kind of problem.
Finally, on the dynamics section, we have the happiness screen. This gives you a player-by-player breakdown of their happiness with the various different elements of their life at the club.
So that's a really cool screen. I love this screen, by the way. First impression, this is really good. You can see everything's neatly laid out for you. I'm going to spend a lot of time on this screen instead of maybe the other ones, just because everything's so clean and so in your face about what's happening in your club. As far as like, so the top right, we've got promises, right? No promises there. Morale, we know all too well. Training, treatment, club, management, playing time, and other happiness. Because you can see there if a majority of the squad are enjoying your training, if they're not enjoying your training. But at the same time, you can also look at like the playing time issue, the club issue. You can find out exactly why a player is unhappy with you. Previously, you kind of had to guess a little bit, or there was like cryptic little things upon why they weren't happy. This time, straight in your face, tells you why they're not happy, and then you can try and fix or resolve the issue.
Players are grouped into their hierarchy rankings, so you're able to see at a glance what areas you may need to tweak in order to improve the squad's overall happiness. Dynamics has been integrated into the home section and player profile too. On the overview drop-down on the player profile, there's now a dedicated dynamics screen. This shows details of their opinion of you, their hierarchy and social group information, as well as elements of the information screen from previous years.
Obviously, this can impact as who you sign as well. For instance, if you're a coin flip between Wes Morgan and Robert Hoof, by speaking to your team leader, Troy Deeney, you know they get on, you know it's going to help gel the team quicker together if you sign, for instance, in this case, Wes Morgan. So that's pretty good information there. Really helps you kind of make a decision over signing players. I use the whole Wes Morgan, Robert Hoof thing as an example, but this is something that can definitely help you. Like you maybe want to bring in Britt Assabelonga to try and keep Troy Deeney happy, or you think he might be a good player to bring in simply because these two get on together. So yeah, that's any more like to sign as well. Think about it too. Obviously, players are get on well with real life and their friends, so they might like to sign with your club if you have a player they're friends with. So that's a nice little touch there.
Relationships with some of your fellow managers, and for the first time in the series, certain players too.
That's awesome. This is really, really cool. The fact that screen exists, relationship screen exists. So this tells me they're going to start doing a bit more stuff towards dynamic rivalries. They can has been dubbed on the Foot Manager community. So you know, you had teams in your save that you always come up against. You had a rivalry or a manager you always had a rivalry against. It was kind of pushed to one side as the game was priority, and it should still be the priority, but it was kind of pushed to one side, and rivalries didn't really take a precedent. But now it looks like they will. Obviously with managers, and they said, what was it, like individual players as well. So you want to try and re-sign a player that you used to have. You can see it on the relationship between who you get on with really, really well, who reacts positively to you as a manager, as a player, and obviously then as a manager as well. So this could impact maybe how you negotiate a transfer of a player, things like that. If you don't get on well with, in this case, Uwe Rosler, Fleetwood manager, you may not be able to sign a player from them just because you simply don't get on, and the contract negotiations will break down, things like that. So that could be really, really impactful.
As you can see, Dynamics is a wide-ranging and three-dimensional system that will really change the way you approach your squad handling and man management. It can influence which players you scout and sign as you look to build a dressing room that can work together effectively both on and off the pitch in the long term. Get it right, and it could be the key to turning title outsiders into league champions. Thanks so much for watching. Keep an eye out for more episodes of
Alright, so that's pretty much the episode there. Alright, so initial reaction, everything's clean, everything's well organized together. It's a really nice screen, very useful screen. Obviously some really good detailed information, the dynamic rivalries, but the relationship screens, the more in-depth player personnel screens, the happiness screens, the general overall view of the happiness screens, the core, the primary, secondary, A and B, and other social groups. Those are really, really good additions because it helps you understand the dynamic of the team itself, and it helps you make decisions regarding signing new players and how they're going to interact and gel with your current side. So those are excellent, excellent new features. On the potential negatives to it, I'm not a big fan of the whole manager support thing about if you piss off a team leader, it'll have a domino effect to the players below them in the hierarchy system. And I'm hoping with that in mind, though, that they've adjusted the they've adjusted the I can't think now. Anyway, yeah, they've adjusted the sensitivity level. There you go, sensitivity level of the players itself, because obviously there was a previous time where you can just click the wrong answer. I felt like there were 4 negative answers and 1 positive answer. If you hit the 1 negative answer, then it have a domino effect to the team, and there would be just simply a very poor morale, go from very good morale to very poor morale. And then obviously if you were lucky enough to finally hit that green kind of like positive reaction box, you're able to then move forward. I think, because I don't want the players, and I don't want as a manager to be scared to be able to talk to my players, because I feel like if I make the wrong decision once, it could have an ultimate effect that I lose control of the club and I get immediately sacked, or at least sacked in the upcoming week. So that's a potential negative I feel behind it, but I'm hoping that Foot Manager have had a workaround in that system. But we'll have to see. I mean, honestly, this is a little bit tidbit information, good information that we've got about dynamics, but nothing really new that we've learned today, apart from stuff that we're already talking about in the community. But anyway, I mean, that's basically it. I've got to have to digest this, think about it, and if I really think about anything else, I'll release a video on it. But thank you guys so much for watching the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys are looking forward to interacting with players more in the future, because that appears to be where Foot Manager 18 is primarily taking their new thing. It's going to be player interaction. So I hope you guys are looking forward to it. If you're not, please let me know in the comments below. What issues do you see with dynamics, and what pros are there too? What do you guys think is going to be, what are you guys looking forward to doing or using dynamics for? Are you looking forward to maybe using the signed players, using it to improve the squad? Let me know. I'm interested to hear your feedback in the comments below. Please let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys have enjoyed the video. If you have, remember to hit like on the video. If you want to see more from me, subscribe. I'll see you all in the next part. Goodbye, everyone.